this. I think the fact that the algorithm is so opaque along what gets promoted, this isn't just about free expression, it is about amplification, but I'm not sure how we police that.
So here, let me tell you why I don't think it's a free speech issue or free expression issue. Those ads are not going to everyone. Those ads are very highly micro-targeted at a very specific set of vulnerable people. And in my mind, if you take away the algorithmic amplification, the micro-targeting, Mark's speech is completely correct. But because of those two things, he's talking about things that are like completely irrelevant to the real problem.
Why doesn't Facebook just do that?
Well, because the business model depends on micro-targeting and amplification.
Yeah, their data collection enables them to target with that precision. I read this speech 3 times now. I could not identify the thesis. What is Mark Zuckerberg arguing for in this speech? He's fundamentally arguing for social networks to exist and for Facebook to do whatever it's doing.
Right.
I don't think that this was a stirring defense of the status quo. I think Zuckerberg's endgame, no one is happy with the status quo. Republicans, Democrats, no consumer is happy with the status quo on Facebook. I think the endgame here is we, Facebook, are the national champion of America's values. Go ahead, regulate us. Put all these regulations on us in accordance with whatever values we have. We can afford the compliance costs, and we will not have competitors. We'll become a national information distribution monopoly.
So it's sort of GDPR writ large. In a sense.
Beyond that, I mean, content moderation standard, there was a 230 debate on the Hill earlier this week. Facebook wasn't there. Facebook, as far as I can tell, is nowhere on the debate around content moderation standards, because I think they'd be happy for the government to step in and actually regulate them such that their competitors can afford the costs of reviewing every piece of content.
It reminded me of a Barack Obama political speech in the run-up to the 2008 election. He was putting forth these broad political, American ideals that we can all kind of get behind and saying this is what Facebook stands for. But Roger, to your point, I'm not sure that's what the issue is with Facebook right now, but you're listening to some of this stuff going, well, yeah, that makes sense. I can kind of agree with that. He was arguing for Facebook as sort of being the internet as opposed to being this platform for targeted messaging.
And I would bring in Nilay's point on this, but with a little bit different spin, which is that in my mind, Mark's framing of the thing is incredibly self-serving. The challenge for regulators is you don't want Facebook to be a monopoly of the public square, which it essentially already is. You don't want Google having that level of dominance. What you want to do, in my opinion, is use regulation to change the business model. You want to force them out of the model that they have today, because that model, surveillance capitalism, is undermining so many different aspects of social life in the country. Not just democracy, but also public health and privacy. I just think you have to go after the heart of the matter.
Is a breakup what you're talking about? Doesn't seem like a breakup would address that.
No, the breakup's like the last step. That deals with competitive stuff. In my mind, I want to prohibit the third-party commerce and private data. I want private data to be treated as a human right, like a body part. I mean, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, and Amazon have a data voodoo doll about each and every one of us, which is every digital touch point we have in our lives.
Yeah.
And it is as much a part of our body as our kidneys or our legs. And the notion that a corporation is allowed to own that data would be analogous to going to the doctor, having them repair a broken leg, and having them own your leg. I mean, it's insane. And in my mind, we have to stop that. And the problem with the regulatory thing is that's new. And that requires innovation and regulation, and that's tricky.
But I think they'd be very happy to accept a deep, intrusive behavioral regulation on how they can run ads. I think they would honestly be happy to accept sort of the Josh Hawley proposal about what you can scroll and see, granular software feature.
Which is why I don't want to let them do that.
But what they're up against is Elizabeth Warren saying, actually, the best answer is to break them up. Actually, we do have moments in America where corporations affect what we see and hear in our control. We're in a network with the Standards and Practices Department, but there are other networks that compete that have different standards and practices. That is a simpler solution than the government telling one dominant company exactly how it should run, exactly how it should make money. I think that's what Zuckerberg's up against.
We're talking about this through the lens of Facebook for obvious reasons with the Zuckerberg speech yesterday. But I mean, even just earlier this week, you had Twitter modifying some of its policies, too, for world leaders on Twitter, principles and approach. And I just wonder, is this a Facebook-specific issue, or is this a broader industry issue? And if so, who's going at it the right way and who isn't?
I think this is strange for me to say. I think one of the answers here is that these companies are now converging on a set of policies.
Yeah.
Whether or not they actually feel competitive about what those policies should be, they're running up into a very heated 2020 election where if they do say we're not going to let you lie in ads, there is a meaningful chance the Republican candidate for president will not be allowed to run very many ads because he tends to lie. That is a big problem for them.